So in this video, we will be looking at the progress bars, an element that comes included with the OctoMono bundle. Remember that this is just one of the elements included, so for each purchase you do, you will have access to all the elements included in the bundle without recurring payments. So now we're going to have a look at the progress bars. So when you do progress, you can see it here. You have an example. By default, you will have 3 progress bars here. You can obviously delete them or copy them and access the settings. The settings will have a value where you can add the amount of progress you want to include. In this case, by default, it's 50%. Then you can also, each one of them can have a empty other fill, which is the empty bar. And then you can see that it's using a gradient color, and then you can select 3 of those gradient colors for this. So now let's have a look. If you have a specific style you would like to use, and you would like to use them for all of the elements, then I suggest always deleting everything except one. And then once you styled one, you simply use the copy button so that the exact styles are copied to your next element. So for example, let's change a few of those elements here. In this case, we're going to put it to 90. And don't be afraid of copying, because once you copy, you can still change some values independently for each progress bar. So we set this to 90. We're going to say that our empty outer fill is going to be this color, for example. Just to have a color, and then we'll change our gradient here with some greenish tones, and instead here we'll add a blue one. We're not going to look for we're not going for style competition right now. We're just changing some stuff. So then we have one, and then you can see that those styles, if you were to add a new progress bar, it would start from 0 and it would inherit the styles. So let's see those styles 1 second. So if you set it to 90, the default styles, but you actually maybe just want to use the same styles. So that is when you would have to use that copy option, and then you can see that those are independently, that those are copied entirely. So now then, when using this, you can obviously, as said before, change those values. So maybe modify the percentage value, which would be a logical thing, or you can again just change all those colors. So now let's have a look at the global styles. So we had a look at the horizontal bars, but there is another bar type of bar, which is the circle one. So when selecting this, you can see it, and it will have 2 of those circular progress elements. In this case, you will also have a visible per row, but we will look at the circle ones later. Let's return back to horizontal. So in here, you can see that each of those elements has a box around it, a light gray box. You can change that background obviously as well as needed. So let's just set it to a light color, or you can just simply remove it by setting it to white. If you don't want to have any background at all, make sure to use this opacity slider and put the transparency completely to 0. It will be like this. And also remember, if you would like to preview your styles on a dark background, simply click up here in the option and you can have a preview on the dark background. Now you can also have a box radius, which would rounder those edges. So the higher you go, the rounder they will get. You can create some spacing between those, 100 is much. You can also make them stack to each other by setting this value to 0. And then for the progress thickness, which is the thickness of this, is a default value of 20. There has to be like a minimum when you set it to 2. You cannot go lower than 2, because otherwise it will become invisible. So let's set this to 10, for example, which is half of the default value. Again, which this won't be so visible when it's a small one, but you can add a radius for this. So if you would like this to be rounded entirely, then you could set this to 100, for example, and you can see you have a rounded progress bar. If you don't want to have any rounded edge, you just simply set this value to 0. So now we'll leave it at 10, and we're going to leave this at 5. So you also have the option, of course, of showing the progress value. In here you can see 60%, but maybe you don't want it and you like the design already of the progress itself. Then you just simply toggle it off. When toggled on, then you can style those elements as well, or you can style the background of the percentage box, and you can change the color of that box. Scrolling lower, you can see that there is also some text that can be added in Weebly. A Weebly element, Weebly will add an element in the editor, which you can then modify and add text as needed. If you don't want it, you simply toggle it off. If you want it, you can still choose the position of that. So you can have it at the top, at the right, at the bottom, or at the left. If you set it to the left or the right, then you can add an additional value of the max width that that this value will have, just in case that when you add an element, I'm referring that when you add more elements, your text value will probably not be the same in length. So if you specify a value in a width in pixels, then the length will always be the same no matter the length of the inputs of the characters. So we'll leave that to 100. Then we're gonna go just to the top like that. I think we can remove this for some stylish, and then we can probably just get rid of the empty outer fill, which gives a nice feature as well, and set it to white. But again, if you would like to remove entirely this thing, because now you don't see it because we're working on a white background, but if you were to switch this to, now our box is white, you cannot see it either, but then we would have to change this, and you can see that the white is actually still there. So how to avoid this? Simply by setting that color value using the opacity slider to 0, so it's completely transparent. We're going to leave this because it's not bothering us. We're going to add a new one, just like that. And in the settings, we're going to set this value to 100, for example. So now when saving, we will be automatically taken back to our editor, and then you can see that our elements are here. And as said before, you can modify text, and you can set some example here, and then you can modify the text here with the options included in Weebly, so you can make it bold, italic, underline, change the color, and more. So we're going to change this to progress bar 2, progress bar 3. Set it to bold as well, and to bold, just like that. And now we're going to have a look at the live page, because those are all animated progress bars, which means that once the element is being scrolled into the viewport, when it's becoming visible, then the percentage, the scale bar will be animated. So we have nothing here, so let's refresh. You can see because those two first ones are already in the viewport, they're being animated immediately. But we have a third one that is hidden under here. So once we go a bit lower, you will see that it will animate once it's becoming visible. So now let's have a quick look at those circular ones. Once you create a bar like this, you can switch it without any issue to the circular type. So now we have like this. There are some additional styles you can add, because since those are taking up a lot less space, you can choose the amount of progress bars you want to have visible inside of the per row, I mean. So per desktop, per tablet, and then per phone. By default it's 3, 2, 1, but you can set it as you like. They are responsive, so they will resize as needed. However, you do need to watch out that the value inside of the circle is not exceeding the width of the responsive part. But it's not something to worry about, especially not with percentage value. But in the circular value, you have an additional option, which is, if you check the settings, as with the horizontal ones, you can set the percentage value. Again, you can set the outer empty value and then those gradients. But there is another option where you have the option of adding a customized inner text. So maybe you don't want to show the percentage, but you still want to show that animation, and you simply click that, and you see that will appear add text, and then you can say something like element 1 just like that. And then once you have those things set, you can also style those. Those are global styles. So what you need to do is you just in your global styles here on the left, you will see that a few additional options are becoming visible. So in this case here, you can also change the progress thickness. This is the same actually as we set it to 5, but you can also set a maximum width. So in this case, it was 100, 200. Let's set it, for example, to 250 once. And then you can see our size increased. You can also change the inner circle background, so you can see that it has a color to it. So when you change this color, it will just modify it like that. So let's set it to a dark color like that. And then of course, when doing that, you can also change the color of the inside, and this is the color. And more, you can change the font size. So in case that if you have a large text element there, you can set it to, let's say, 50 pixels. With the progress text, you can add toggle it off as well. With these circular ones, you cannot put the Weebly text on the left or on the right, but you can only put it at the bottom or the top. So remember to change that if needed. So now we're going to save this example. And remember that inside here, you cannot see the progress itself, but you can see the box and all those elements. In this case, we're also going to center those text elements so it looks nicer, just like that. And then when publishing and refreshing our page, you can see that it animates in. So another thing to quickly check is that when you do want to make modification in percentage values, so for example, right now you're going to see that those percentage values are being animated. But let's say that, for example, I want to change this one, and instead of 100, we will set this one to 80 maybe. So we set it to 80. We just modified it to 80, but we don't see it happening. So what is actually really happening is that it doesn't animate, because otherwise we would have to make the dashboard way too heavy. So the only thing you need to do is view changes, and then you would see that it will animate again until 80%. Now let's publish this, or rather save this. And then maybe we'll add it in here, like that. And we'll create a bit of spacing between. Publish. Go to our live page, refresh that page, and then once we scroll down, you will see that it will animate in. So those are the progress bars being included in the OctoMono bundle. As again, remember that once you purchase the bundle for your site, you will have access to over 30 premium elements, and you can use them as much as needed on your site. So make sure to check it out. Thank you.